This is the scammiest story I've heard in a while from a major financial institution, and I say this as someone who has accounts at Capital One.
Did you notice this?
Yes.
Okay.
I noticed it about a year and a half ago that, hey, interest rates were moving up, but the interest rate on my accounts was not.
I changed savings accounts as I noticed something similar.
Yeah, so so I said, oh, gee, like there's something going on here. And so I went to Capital One and said, open a new account, and this is the account type. Mm-hmm. And so I opened, a couple new accounts there because I'm one of those weird people that likes different accounts for different buckets that I'm tracking mentally.
So you're the envelope guy.
I am the electronic envelope guy.
Right.
Yes.
If anybody doesn't know, it's a budgeting method of putting different cash in different envelopes.
Is that Dave Ramsey?
Passes. Don't know.
I think it's Dave Ramsey.
I wouldn't be surprised if you were a fan of it in either case.
But, so, I noticed this, and I didn't really think a ton of it. I was just like, oh, like, that's weird, but maybe banks do this all the time. Like, I don't know.
Let's talk about what actually happened. So, for the better part of the last decade, as we all know, most of these savings rates have paid next to nothing.
Yes.
So, the ING Direct, I think, was actually bought by Capital One 360.
Yeah, it was a European company called ING Direct that was an online-only bank. No physical locations. They had an orange lion as their logo.
You might remember them. There's a little orange dot during a lot of their commercials in the mid 2000s. And they became very popular as a place to go for people who are comfortable with online banking to get a good rate on savings accounts. And so they got bought out by Capital One 360, and
they became Capital One did not have any banking products before that. Right. So Capital One bought this to jumpstart their bank. Mm-hmm. And they still kept that promise of, hey, we're going to have these, high interest rates are going to be our calling card.
Yep. In 2019, they took a step to introduce a new savings account called 360 Performance Savings, which was apparently different from their old savings account called 360 Savings, because performance.
Exactly.
That's it.
So in 2020, when interest rates went to zero, well, everyone's interest rates went down, so it didn't really matter. But then last year, or rather in 2022, as rates started going up, I don't remember exactly when I noticed it, but I noticed, hey, I'm earning crap on these Capital One accounts. What is the deal here? And I didn't think too much of it. I was just like, oh, like maybe they're older accounts, like they're sunsetting them. I don't know. And so I opened 2 new accounts and blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing is that it turned out that this was like a broad-based thing, and they really told no one. Like, I never got an email about this. Hey, your account isn't earning as much as it could at our bank.
Of course.
Like, no, you say of course, but I get pitches from every bank every day. Put your money in this account and you can earn more, even from banks I'm already at.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I have accounts with like 4 different banks. I get emails from them all the time. Hey, here's our CD rates right now. Here's our, new savings rates. Put your money in this account.
Yeah. And Capital One was still advertising high-yield savings accounts.
You go to their website, and it's got all these high-yield savings options.
There are advertisements everywhere. They were talking about the rates on their 360 Performance savings account.
And it turns out that they basically made this switch for all of their customers without telling them that they weren't getting the interest rates that Capital One was advertising now. And that, to me, it's not fraud, because like they weren't saying that they didn't have these accounts.
They had the proper disclosure in all likelihood. I'm sure all of these things are. So what I wrote down right on the front of this was sleazy, yes. Illegal?
Well,
tough putt.
Here's the thing. I got no freaking loyalty to Capital One.
Sure.
I don't know if I'm keeping my money there at this point.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of other options for getting high yields now. In fact, there are a number that are, as you mentioned, better.
Better than performance.
At least right now.
Yeah.
At least at the moment.
Yeah.
Who knows what happens long term. But this is the kind of stuff where there was some boardroom meeting where a whole bunch of people got pitched this idea, and they said, hey, you know what? That's how we can juice our margins. Not by providing a better service, not by providing a tangible benefit, not by doing anything to actually improve the business that they were running, but rather, hey, if we just don't tell our existing customers that they're no longer getting the interest rates that we're advertising to new customers, well, golly gee willikers, that's how we're going to goose margins.
I mean, I think there actually is a fair question of, I said illegal, probably not, and I don't think that any of the agencies that regulate the banks would find this to be the case. But let's say this does end up in front of a jury. Are you able to convince a jury that, in fact, hey, this was, you changed one word in your savings account and it was effectively false advertising or deceptive marketing practices? I don't know. It's like I said, at the very least, it's pretty sleazy.
And you said that the article says they did this back in 2019.
So 2019 is when they rolled out the new type of account that was, again, this is an account that's available to new and existing customers, but you did have to sign up for it. And again, at the time, if I don't know this to be the case, but if you at the time, I'm guessing if you looked at your 360 performance savings and your 360 savings account, the interest rates were probably exactly the same or very close to it. The difference is when they rose, they only increased the rate on the performance savings.
I did not open my new one until September of 22. I just pulled up the initial account.
So you're part of this. You missed out a whole bunch of this.
I did.
Class action lawsuit going on if you want to jump on the bandwagon.
I've never been really part of a class.
Yeah.
I don't. I prefer to handle things on my own. So I don't really know what I'm going to do here because it's kind of like, I guess it's not that much of a hassle to open up a new bank account. But this, like, I was just kind of figuring, oh, maybe this was me, like maybe I opened up the wrong kind or something like that. And now I get told, no, like they did this as a thing.
Yeah.
That feels awful, man.
So I think
this is why people hate banks.
Yeah, this is why
people
hate
hate banks.
But it brings up an interesting theme and question that we had asked ourselves in the past. And I think part of the reason Capital One made this decision was because they know that bank deposits are sticky. And I challenged that premise previously. Like, hey, are bank deposits sticky or are bank accounts sticky, right? Like you can pretty easily move the money around like you saw happen at Silicon Valley Bank rather rapidly. This is in the front of the Wall Street Journal. How much longer do these deposits hang out at Capital One? This will be a very interesting test to me. Like, take a look at the next quarterly filings for Capital One. Do they have a meaningful drop in deposits? Because if not, then, like I said, this is about as sleazy as it gets. I don't think... I think this might have just proven the point of big banks here that they don't need to offer new services if they already have existing customers.
This is a company deliberately making its product worse.
Yes.
To goose the equivalent is that the company that makes your milk says, you know what? We're going to make the sell-by date one day later, even though it's not. You know, we this milk came out of the cow earlier, but we're going to make it look like it came out later. And then your milk doesn't last as long.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment here. There are banks and credit unions all across the country who offer fantastic CD rates to only new customers.
Yes, they tell you that.
They do. They do. So this is different than that, but it is akin to the same thing, which is, hey, we're going to stick you in this garbage savings account, and in order to attract new customers, we're going to do this. Yeah, this one seems agreed, a step higher on the sleazy scale to me.
Like, I thought I had just opened up the wrong type of account or something, and okay, you know, whatever. They, like, okay, this is the one you need to be in. I didn't realize that in 2019 they made this change 3 years before and just didn't tell anyone.
Yeah. I'm sure not. I guess I'm sure that they are not the only ones.
They might not be, but
they did get caught.
This is what sucks about banks. Like, this is why people hate them.
Yeah.
Is, hey, imagine this, Mike. Imagine this. Imagine I go and I take out a 30-year mortgage.
Sure.
And then I very quietly send my mortgage company a letter saying, I hereby, reduce the interest rate on this mortgage to 1%. Would they be like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Like, you got one of those hip mortgages. No, they'd be like, go pound sand. I don't know what's illegal here, but this is not business. This is like the people who you want to run things are ones where they're like, no, I came up with something new, and that's why we're more profitable.